This is Street Knowledge with Chris Graham.
Welcome to the podcast. Chris Graham talking UVA football, going solo today, wrapping up the week. And, this was the week of the ACC Kickoff, and still awaiting the rollout of the preseason All-ACC teams and the predicted order of finish. I've seen that pop up, so I don't imagine it will probably until maybe early next week. Probably a good thing in a way, that that's the case. There's not a lot of football news right now. We're a couple weeks away from the start of spring practice, but there's not a lot. We have this. This starts getting the appetite whetted a bit, but the writers and the broadcasters are all sorting through all the reams of information they got from the interviews the past couple of days. I didn't go this year. Talked about that on previous podcasts. Decided not to go, having done it the last several years in a row. I don't know. I'm kind of souring on those kind of big preseason media events. You get two players from each team. You get the coach from each team. You stand. I'm sure if you looked at anything video-wise, either directly from ACC or from the SEC media days, other conferences had theirs this week as well. You see those big gaggles of reporters, everybody in this huge pile of people. There's a coach sitting at a table, and you're all sticking your tape recorder as close as you can to the pile, basically. And a couple people who kind of box everybody else out get to sit at the front and ask questions. And it just doesn't do it for me anymore. I don't know that that's the journalism I need to do. I say the same thing when I talk about coverage of the White House. All the complaints about the last couple of administrations. The Trump administration, certainly the Obama administration, didn't escape this either. Not very friendly to the media. The Trump administration is taking it to a new level, but the Obama folks weren't very good either, working with the media in a lot of capacities. Well, one thing I say is stop complaining about it. Stop sending reporters to those press conferences. That's not where the news is anyway. News is not in a press conference. News is not in a bunch of people sitting around a table with tape recorders talking to a football coach or to a press secretary or anything like that. Yet that's not where journalism is. Journalism is digging a little bit. And you're not going to get any answers from a football coach or any of the two players from each school. They're not going to. Do you expect, for example, we saw columns come out this week from the UVA contingent that were at the event, and all the controversy stirred up a few weeks ago about Bronco Mendenhall's talk to the Board of Visitors. And one of the big things was, he said only 27 of his players were all ACC caliber. What about the other guys? That's going to hurt their feelings. I had a take that included that, but also said, hey, his math's fuzzy. He's saying every one of his recruits the next 3 years is going to be an ACC caliber player, and almost none of the guys he inherited were. That's BS. We can all go with that. But that said, that was a story from about a month ago, early summer part. Now we're midsummer, getting close to practice, and you get Coach Mendenhall, and you get a couple players, and what do you expect? Are you going to ask the players there? Well, was the locker room upset about this? Do you think you're going to get an honest answer either way? I mean, the honest answer might be, no, we weren't upset about it, okay? But can you factor in that that's the honest answer? Do you think that if they thought otherwise, they're going to tell you that and risk their playing time, risk their scholarship? Those grants and aid are yearly playing time now. The two players representing UVA this year, both seniors. So, maybe not so much, but because their playing time might be diminished. But I don't think you're going to get too far without Chris Peace or Olamide Zaccheaus this year if you're UVA. We'll talk about both those guys coming up. But I just you don't expect honest answers out of press conferences anymore, sports press conferences. You're just there to get video. That's honestly what I was there for, because I cover the ACC Kickoff as well from home this time around as I did from going, because except for one thing, I didn't get video with my own camera. But the ACC, go to ACC.com, you can get all the video you want and 10 times more on ACC.com. So whether I shoot the video, I get maybe one question in all the 15, 20 minutes you get, or what, is that worth? I mean, to me, it wasn't driving all the way to Charlotte, paying for 2 nights of a hotel, It wasn't worth it to me. It wasn't worth it. I'm not sure I'm going to really care so much about the UVA football media day if there is one this year. I don't think we've had one the past couple of years. Bronco Mendenhall's first 2 years. I'm simpatico with him on this. Those events just don't do it. They just don't move the needle. I think one year we had a chance to go talk to players before a practice. I think that's what I remember. And even that didn't do much. The first year that Bronco was there, I think he begrudgingly agreed to the request from the PR folks. Hey, the reporters are all complaining they don't get to talk to the players. Again, you just don't get a lot out of that. What you need, and hopefully what we can provide here on this podcast. And I've written some columns this week, and we'll, of course, as we get closer to the season, be able to talk a lot more. Is breaking down how this is going to play out. Now, I've talked about this with Jeff Fife this week. When Scott and I got together the last time a couple weeks ago. The big question this year is offensive line. We're not going to have an answer on that. The offensive line is the key to really everything with this UVA team. I broke this down last year. That 5-1 start, including the big win at Boise State and the win at home over Duke. When Virginia football was really purring last year, it was when the line was creating a running game, holes for the running game. Running game was averaging 140 yards more than that per game. When the line started having depth issues, the injury issues added up. And Virginia loses 6 of the last 7. The yards per carry went from over 4 yards per carry to like 2.5 yards a carry. And what was the problem as a result? Just wasn't on the offensive side. When you can't run the ball effectively and you're running 55 yards a game versus 140 yards a game, what happens is, the opposing defense, of course, can put you in second and long and third and long. They can kind of tee off with their line. They can blitz you. They can drop back in coverage, make it hard for you to get first downs. If it's hard for you to get first downs, your defense is on the field a lot more. They're on the field sooner. Even if they get to stop and get the ball back, your offense sputters. Something as simple as the offensive line and the depth or lack thereof last year is the key between that 5-1 start and that 1-6 finish. And you look at the roster this year, and it's still pretty thin. The 9 players before the freshmen arrived. And of course, you add some more freshmen. That's going to skew this even more. The true freshmen, who I would expect, hopefully, don't contribute because you want linemen especially to have a redshirt year, get bigger, get thicker, get just stronger. More mature, and contribute later on. You'd rather have the 5th year than that true first year. So, but you have all freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. I think there were 1 or 2 juniors on the list of linemen. So a young group, a group that's a little bigger than last year, but last year's group didn't finish out strong. So that's a question. If you can't block well enough, Jordan Ellis isn't going to get a lot of yards per carry. Bryce Perkins isn't going to do as much with the read option. If Perkins is in second and third and longs, what does that do for the passing game? When if you're a defensive coordinator and you've got second and third and longs all day long, and you can either blitz, you don't probably need to blitz. You can probably get pressure with your front 3 or front 4, but if you need to blitz, you can certainly do some things like that, get the ball out of the hands even quicker. But if you can drop guys back in coverage, you can drop 7 guys back in coverage on second and third and long. Put a spy maybe on Perkins. I mean, that changes the dynamic completely. So line play is going to be a key. We won't know. We just won't know until we see the Cavs take the field September 1st. And I know there will be people who will tell you, and I want to tell you right now, they're full of it if they tell you anything other than we don't know. But there are going to be people who are going to tell you that they're going to watch practice, because there are some open practices for the media. They're going to watch practice and talk about the improved line play. There will be some interviews done where they'll talk to Coach Robert Ane, to Coach Mendenhall, to some of the players, and they'll tell you the line's going to be better. They might even see it on the practice field, but until you see it against an opponent, and a live opponent in the form of Richmond on September 1st, we just don't know. So that said, that's where we are right now. We've gone through ACC football kickoff. We don't know any more than we knew before the ACC football kickoff. I imagine it won't surprise me, so I'll prepare you for this now. I've done my own preseason ACC rendering. I think Virginia's probably going to be 5th in the Coastal. They're probably going to be picked by the writers and the broadcasters who were at the kickoff this week. Whenever this comes out, which I, again, presume is going to be Monday. Could be today. I didn't see a schedule for when this is going to be released, but Virginia will be picked 7th by the writers. And it's fair. You know, the team last year, again, had that 1-6 finish. They did lose a lot. You lose your starting quarterback, Kurt Benkert. You lose your big play threat, Andre Levrone. You lose on the other side of the ball the important guys, Quinn Blanding, Andrew Brown, Micah Kaiser. Defense is going to be solid this year. I don't think there's any question about that. The defensive line, maybe not so much, but the line in Bronco Mendenhall's scheme, the 3-4 scheme, maybe it's even a 3-5 scheme he uses. The line is there to eat up blockers and let the backers do the heavy lifting. Make the tackles, speed guys cover the field. And Virginia's got an abundance of linebackers. They've got some great secondary players, even losing Blanding and Kaiser. I think you're going to see a solid defense this year. But how much are they going to be on the field? That's going to be the big question for this team. If the line doesn't, if the line can't produce holes for Jordan Ellis and for Bryce Perkins, quarterback in the read option, in Robert Anae's read option, it's a very important job. I mean, you didn't see Kurt Benkert run the offense this way the last 2 years, so you've not really seen Robert Anae's UVA offense really run the way it's supposed to yet. It will this year with Bryce Perkins. It's going to run the way Coach Anae wants it to run, and you're going to see, the shotgun snaps, which we saw with Benkert the last 2 years. The shotgun snaps to Perkins are going to mean a lot more this time because he can fake that handoff to Jordan Ellis, or he can make the handoff to Jordan Ellis. He can read the crackdown of the defensive end on the opposite side of the ball. And if he sees that guy cheating too much, he can just run around him. And of course, there's play action off of all that. If you slow that guy down enough, you can maybe, you can play action off. If you slow the linebackers down thinking they need to help, again, it changes everything. So that's, but if the line doesn't, get the respect of opposing defenses, Bryce Perkins will be running for his life, and it's not going to be a good thing. So one of the storylines, of course, there were only 2 guys from UVA at the kickoff. That's just the way it works. They bring 2 guys down from each school. Olamide Zaccheaus, and I wasn't in the press conference. I didn't watch the videotape of the entire press conference with Coach Mendenhall and the 2 players. But a question was asked of Coach Mendenhall. So Olamide last year, 85 catches, school record, but he only averaged 10.3 yards a catch. Is that number going to need to go up for this team to be better? And I wrote a column, and I don't know who it was. I'm sure it's a guy a lot smarter than me, but it just seemed like to me a dumb question. A dumb question, that displays that the person who asked it doesn't know much about how the game's played. I guess I'm just, again, I don't know. I'm sure the guy's got 10 times better IQ than I got, but as far as this football stuff goes, Zaccheaus is a 5'8", 190-pound former halfback, recruited to UVA as a halfback, who's been moved into the slot. I think it was after his freshman season. He got some time as a freshman. A little bit at receiver, a little bit at running back. He's still listed on the roster as a halfback, which is interesting because he's also up. He's on the watch list for the Bolitnikoff Award because he's made his bread and butter. His name has been made as a slot guy. And, the slot guy used to be the big guy, Terrell Owens. I mean, think about, T.O.'s getting ready to go to the Hall of Fame. A guy with a sort of tight end size with speed, but not burner speed, but just enough speed to be able to get separation. That was the prototype for slot. Now slot guys, I mean, we saw it with Taquan Mizell. You see it with the NFL, the Patriots, really, a long list of guys. Wes Welker, now Danny Amendola. They use speed guys in that position to, the guys the defenders who cover the slot tend to be guys that, they're the nickelback, they're maybe a linebacker, maybe a safety kind of covering over, and so they're not your best defensive backs. You put your 2 corners, you put on the wideouts, the guys, the speed guys. In our case, last year, Levrone, as an example, Donnie Dowling also. You put your best cover guys on the guys who are going to attack you the most, at least potentially attack you the most downfield. So the slot guy gets a better, more favorable matchup. And the result of that is that, with Virginia, with Olamide Zaccheaus, the usage of him the last 2 years has been expert, in my opinion. And you can hear dogs barking in the house. Got a visitor downstairs, and I love the way that Coach and I has been using Zaccheaus the last couple of years in the slot, 5'8", 190 pounds, because he's running great routes. He's getting open, but a slot guy's not going to attack you downfield much. He had an 81-yard catch last year, the longest play from scrimmage for UVA last year, but for a touchdown. But it was a catch and run kind of scenario. And Zaccheaus has the speed, certainly, to break any play off. But it tends to be the case, a slot guy, you're working the middle of the field, kind of like a tight end. You're smaller than a tight end, obviously. And so, you're trying to find the crevices, the creeks, the rivers in the valley, so to speak. Just trying to, you're really used to make the short catch, maybe get a few yards after catch. But, whereas for example, you think of Andre Levrone, he was the burner. He was running a lot of flies, a lot of post patterns. I mean, he was, attacking the deep slants. That's why he averaged 20 yards a catch, only had 34 catches. But, when he caught it, he was downfield. Zaccheaus is not in that role. And also Zaccheaus, because he's in the slot and the way the offense is running in, a lot of motion in that offense, he actually motions back and gets a lot of carries. In fact, I think he had 216 yards rushing. I think that's the number. I'm just kind of repeating that from memory, but contributed a lot in the running game on jet sweeps, those reverse plays, traditional reverses. But and again, just like Mizell was used a couple years ago, I love the way that this offense is using Zaccheaus. You're getting the ball in his hands as much as possible. But so the question, though, is he going to need to average more per catch for this offense to be better? And, of course, Bronco Mendenhall, I said, it was in the column I wrote, I said, dumb question, dumb answer. I'll give Bronco a lot of credit for this. He wasn't trying to talk down football-wise to the question and say, well, of course, here's how we got to do it. He give me the long answer I just gave you. He did depart from, initially saying, yes, he needs to average more, but – the role that Zaccheaus is going to play is going to be very important in this offense. He's going to be a security blanket for Bryce Perkins. Really, him and Evan Butts work in the middle of the field. What Virginia needs to do is figure out who that deep threat is going to be to sort of open up the middle and the short and medium routes in the middle of the field. They need to find a replacement for Levrone, and we'll figure out who that is first few weeks of the season. At least we, the fans, will. They're already figuring it out, if not already figured it out. Back in the locker room and the strategy sessions and the film breakdowns, everything else. But no, it's not a matter of Zaccheaus needs to average 20 yards a catch. If you put him on the side, if you put him a wideout, he's not going to be that guy. That guy needs to be those guys need to be taller guys. They need to be. I mean, he's got the speed to be that guy, but they need to be taller guys. That's just. The way football works. And so Zaccheaus is going to, as he did as a sophomore, as he did as a junior, he's going to average between 10 and 11 yards a catch. He's going to move a lot of chains. He's going to get some carries out of the slot, and in that reverse game and the jet sweeps. He's also going to get the attention when he does, come out of motion. He's going to draw some linebackers and safeties up because of the threat of him on a sweep. As a potential ball carrier. So his presence alone and his, what would that be, like six or seven catches per game? If he gets 6, 7, 8 catches a game, that number to me is more important than his yards per catch. I didn't write this in the column, but it's occurring to me. His number of touches per game is going to be more important than, seeing his number go from 10 yards per catch and I think it was 7 or 8 yards per rush because of the nature of his rushes. Those numbers are going to stay consistent. They're not going to get. Obviously, you would love to score a touchdown every time you touch the ball, but that's not how football works either. So it's going to be more. To me, it's going to be more seeing that number of touches per game for him go up. I want to see him. Last year, 85 catches in 13 games. That's 6.5 catches a game. He's going to need to increase that maybe 7.5 catches a game. Maybe he's going to need to approach the 100 barrier this year if he stays healthy, plays all the games. And you'd love to see him get a few more touches per game, perhaps out of the backfield, maybe 1 or 2 more touches there. The more touches he gets, the more effective he's going to be. It's not the yards per is going to be because the more touches he gets, the more attention he's going to get from opposing defenses, and thus, the more attention he gets, that spreads out. If he's getting doubled, if he's running in motion and drawing guys up in the backfield, that's going to allow the guy on the wide side to have a little bit extra time to maybe get open downfield. It's going to allow Jordan Ellis to maybe find a lane a little more easily. It's going to allow Evan Butts to operate opposite side of the ball from Zaccheaus with a little more room to operate. So and give Perkins a chance too. I mean, Perkins, give him more time. He's got a guy that can break some routes and do some things too in Zaccheaus. So that's the key to me to Zaccheaus, not the yards per. And so I said dumb question, dumb answer. Certainly give Bronco Mendenhall the easy part of the dumb answer. He was trying to be nice. The question was just a dumb question. The other big storyline to come out of the kickoff, and I wrote about it first, I guess because I was waiting for the transcripts to come out, and we've seen a lot of stories come out since about the talk at the kickoff regarding Virginia using Virginia Tech as a measuring stick. And we've all weighed in on this at this point. I don't think a single publication that covers UVA sports actively has not written about how Coach Mendenhall, Chris Peace, and Olamide Zaccheaus talked about Virginia Tech as a measuring stick. And of course, that was something that came out of also the Board of Visitors talk from Coach Mendenhall last month. And it's a great thing. Always use measuring sticks. I talk about how I'm a distance runner. When I'm running a race, I ran a 10K last weekend. You see somebody ahead of you and you want to catch them. That's how you run a race. When you're out there training by yourself, you're normally, like to me, I ran today. You're out there running on a greenway with people walking dogs and pushing babies in strollers. Not the same as when you're running a race and you see people streaking ahead of you. You want to catch those people when streaking ahead of you in a race. And the same thing with sports. I would argue, for example, that Virginia Tech is where it is because Virginia Tech hired Frank Beamer a few years after Virginia hired George Welsh. George Welsh had success. Virginia Tech said, we want to have Virginia success. And Frank Beamer eventually delivered Virginia-level success and, of course, went beyond that with that run towards the national championship game. They lost that game. But that long run of 10-win seasons, and now that Coach Beamer is retired and Justin Fuente has put up 10 wins and 9 wins in back-to-back years, they don't use us as a measuring stick anymore, but they did for a long, long time. I'd say up until the mid-'90s, maybe even the late '90s, Virginia Tech still looked at Virginia and said, "We got to beat Virginia." Well, Virginia hasn't beaten Virginia Tech in a long time. That's well documented. 14 years, 18 of the last 19 in this series, 1 win. Since I met my future wife at the time, a Virginia Tech grad, Crystal, in 1999, we've had 19 of those games, and I've won 1 of them as the UVA alum in the household. So it's a long time, and Coach Mendenhall is not, certainly to say the least, the first guy to say we got to beat Virginia Tech. When Al Groh got the job back in 2000. 2000, and I guess he started the 2001 season. So when he got the job late in 2000 after Coach Welsh retired, the losing streak at that stage was 2. He won the game in 2003, and then we've lost 14 straight since. But Coach Groh knew, hey, we got to beat Virginia Tech. Of course, he had set his sights at that time too on Florida State. I remember I was at his introductory press conference. And he set his sights, hey, we're going to win a national championship. And the way you do that is you got to be able to beat a team like Florida State. So even he used a measuring stick. It was just a different one at that time. But now, we're going to use Virginia Tech as a measuring stick. You play them every year. They're in your conference. They're 118 miles down the road. You recruit against them all the time. Haven't been recruiting against them great as of late. And as of late, meaning the last 15 years. But, we haven't been recruiting great against them as of late. But you're out there on the same trail. You know the same high school coaches. Virginia is a fertile state recruiting-wise. Ask Clemson, ask Michigan, ask Florida State. They know. Ohio State, they know. Penn State, they know. So Virginia Tech is a measuring stick. Not a novel idea, but it's it's an important one. You got to have something. I was my class salutatorian in high school. The guy who was a valedictorian was 0.05 points ahead of me or something like that. Whole senior year, I fretted over those 0.05 points. I wanted to beat the guy. I didn't want to be number 2. I wanted to be number 1. Virginia's got the same measuring stick with Virginia Tech, and it's a good measuring stick. If you get to the point. Now, Virginia's been competitive on the field with Virginia Tech the last few years, except for, Broncos' first year, not so much. But London's last 2 teams, I think, at least the last 2 teams, should have won those games. Those weren't very good Tech teams. I think they each won 7 games each of those years. But Virginia, blew the game down in Blacksburg. They blew the game in Charlottesville, London's last game, as it turns out. Last year, the 10-0 loss. Yeah, we could still be playing now. If the game had continued at infinitum, we would still not have scored in that game. The offense was in such shape, such disarray. The line was in such disrepair. We were not going to score. But the defense held a really potent Tech offense to 10 points. Moral victory, yeah, it's what we got to have. But we don't have any victory to speak of since the social media era that we now live in started. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, all those. None of those were in existence the last time Virginia won the game in a series. So you just gotta say, if you get your program to the point where it can beat Virginia Tech, that means you're beating a program that wins 9 or 10 games every year. If you can beat a program that wins 9 or 10 games every year, logically, that should put you in a position to win 9 or 10 games every year. So I love the measuring stick. Again, not a novel idea, but it's it is what it is. You gotta have some goal. You want me? I wanted to beat the guy who was my valedictorian in my high school class. I fell just a little short. I still got to make a speech. That was okay. Ran the race last weekend. I finished 5th in my age division. Those 4 guys, watch out because I'm running harder. I'm gunning for you. There's another 10K that I'm going to run in October here locally. I'm training, man. I'm already running faster. In fact, yeah, I did a 5-miler this week, training wise. That was my best 5-mile time ever. So I'm ready for you, man. I don't want to peak too soon, but I'm ready for you. So same thing with Virginia Tech. You got to be ready. You got to be prepared. That's the only way you can win. You just don't go out there and play for the sake of playing. Like to see the goals being set there. So, quick podcast today because there's not a lot to talk about. I think I'll oblige if there is some sort of media day. I'll have to go just because you have to go. I'll also say, hey, I'm going VMI football again. I know if you're listening to UVA podcast, you don't care. I'm sure. Scott Wackenheim, the coach, former UVA assistant. Albert Reed is an assistant coach there. Ross Matheny, Albert Reed, UVA alum. He played as a post-grad 1 year at UVA a couple years ago. Ross Matheny, a former UVA quarterback, transferred out to go to North Alabama, South Alabama. He's an assistant coach down there. So there's UVA. There's a lot of UVA ties down there at VMI. I'm their radio play-by-play guy, so I will miss a few. I think it's at least 2 games this year. I'll miss covering UVA home games because I'll be very busy talking VMI football. But I'm going to their media day. Different reason. I actually want to talk to people. I don't want to just get quotes for a story. I'll do a story too. I'll have quotes for a story, but I want to learn this team. So I'll do some of the media day stuff. I spent 5 minutes bashing the media day stuff, but you kind of want to know the people, and I'll do that stuff. But we're not going to know anything. I'll finish up and reinforce that message. We're not going to know anything until we see the team play. And, I don't want to sound haughty because that Richmond team blew the doors off Virginia 2 years ago in Broncos' debut, a 30-7 lead in the fourth quarter, 137-20. But I don't know that we're going to know a lot about this team, even assuming that Virginia, is able to win that first game against Richmond. It's a 1AA team, FCS team. They have 22 less scholarships. They have, obviously less depth. Should have less talent. They obviously did 2 years ago, but. So we're not going to know a lot about this team really probably until the Indiana game week 2 on the road at a Big Ten school that beat us last year. So that's way off. That's September 8th. It feels like so far off in the distance. for us to get a sense. But we're talking football, so there's worse things than that. I want to thank you for listening, and go to our website AugustaFreePress.com. If you have any questions for me, concerns, you want to complain, you want to praise, that's rare, but Aug Free Press, where I am on Twitter, Aug Free Press, and then also you can email me at AugustaFreePress2@gmail.com. And you'll notice we took the comments off the website. We were using the Discuss platform, and I'm not going to bash Discuss. I'm wrapping up the podcast here, right? But it's an advertising platform, lots of ads running on it. The return on investment just not that good. We get lots of ad dollars coming in from Google. We get lots of ad dollars coming in from sponsored links. We're getting bupkis from Discuss. So that's the platform we were. ESPN got me thinking this direction. They took their comments platform down a few weeks ago. I looked at the numbers; they just weren't justifying keeping that going. But you still can, comment on Facebook. We have a Facebook following of over 100,000. You can comment with us on Twitter. Send me an email. Smoke signals, whatever. Just let us know what you think, and we'll be glad to address whatever issues there may be. Signing off for today, I am Chris Graham. Wahoo wah.